Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy, my channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to go over gold and silver technical analysis update. We'll get a good picture on this. We're going to go over the dollar, the 10-year yield. I'll give you my opinions there. We're going to go over gold, silver, platinum, palladium, do the precious metals, and then get into some ETFs and some individual companies to get a good overall picture of what's going on in the short term. Again, in the long term, I'm an incredible on all of these commodities. I still think the thesis is playing out. In the short term, there's a lot of fear in this market. People are afraid. You can see it kind of in the comments section here. And you can see it kind of in the 10-year yield. And what the 10-year yield, if you're looking at this, you're trying to gauge market fear and greed. When people are fearful of inflation, what they'll do is they'll sell bonds and yields get bid up. If they're afraid, you're looking for people to run into bonds. If they're running into bonds, yields will drop. Now, the news has already been released. So it's not like we're on the front edge of this. Everybody knows about this variant if the fear is about the variant. So the news is already out there. We're seeing the 10-year yield drop, and I'll get you into the charts here shortly. But we're seeing fear in the market. We're seeing that we're being reflected in the 10-year yield. And I would say that everything's already out there. So if you're going to be selling now, it's kind of late to the game, I would say. I'm just hanging on myself, and I'm just going to ride through it. That's kind of my viewpoint on it. I don't get really riled up. I don't get worried necessarily. You have to look at this kind of logically and just, think through it. I'll look at the charts. I'll give you my opinion here. The charts, again, some charts, it looks like we were seeing some strength, and it just reversed. It was like, boom. It took off to the downside. And looking at it from a statistical probability, I played it correctly, but the market can still do whatever it wants in the short term, because all you're left with is maybe a 60% likelihood, which means there's still a large likelihood that this could pull back. But we'll get into the charts. I'll give you my opinion, give you my financial opinion. It's just my opinion. Please don't use it as advice. But here we go. This is the dollar behind us. The dollar came on up, went into an ascending wedge, broke to the downside, and now we broke that downtrend. We had a small, kind of basically a flat day today. If you were to zoom in on the right-hand side, this is the ascending wedge. We broke out of it, went into a small downtrend, and then broke the downtrend, and we're trending sideways to higher. Big picture view, we've got a line going across that we broke to the downside here, and then we've got a big, huge picture here where it's 1, 2, 3, and we're breaking on to the upside potentially with this guy coming through here. Looking at the 10-year yield. 10-year yield, we were lining up for an inverted head and shoulders. We were going to get higher yields out of this and higher oil prices, higher everything. And this Omicron, or the anagram moronic variant, came out and it swapped it right here. It was right in this area here where we're shot lower here, the 10-year yield. Now the 10-year yield is breaking out beyond this support line. We've got the support line that was supporting it, and it just broke to the downside. We could see more fear in the market, potentially, if this continues to head lower. It's a possibility. We're already in this market. We've been riding it a little bit lower in some of our investments. I'm just going to hold on. That's me. And I'm not talking necessarily about gold and silver. I'm just talking in general. In general. So we do have a weaker 10-year yield. People are getting more afraid. And we're going to have to sit here and monitor it. I'm not going to do anything with it because the overall thesis is still intact. Home prices are still strong. And the majority of major market crashes, almost all of them, were led by a housing market crash. So we need to continue to monitor housing market. And these things don't change this rapidly. What I think this is just fear in the market from the variant, and I don't think anything will come of it. If something does come of it, it would be of shutdowns. Shutdowns would be the thing that you'd have to worry about. And that is man-made. So I don't know how you could see that on a chart. We've got gold here. Gold was up. I actually think gold looks absolutely fantastic today. The reason I think that is we've got a bullish engulfing pattern right there. Let me back out to the 1 year. That's a bullish engulfing pattern right there. What that means is that it has a statistical probability of going on up. This is a reversal pattern right today in gold. If you zoom way in on it, we had a support line here. And what it did is we kind of broke down a little bit yesterday at 02. 03 right here is we gapped lower and it got bought up all throughout the day and actually closed above this resistance line. This looks like to me like we could be potentially putting in a bottom for gold. That's what that looks like. Silver was up 17.5 cents. We still have work here to do on silver in relationship to gold, but we do have a broken downtrend line if you look there. And the work is being put in right now. So there's your downtrend line break coming through. We broke out this morning. And I would say gold and silver actually look like they're putting in bottoms, not tops. They actually look good. And if I were a physical buyer of it, I would be looking right here to buy if it were me. But again, I'll tell you this. We've been breaking some other patterns and they've been failing to the downside. I don't know how we have this many patterns across a group breaking down like they are. It is quite curious, but we're breaking the downtrend line right here. Platinum is more of a metal that is subject to inflation. It's more inflation sensitive. So this one's going to get hit more with I think fear than some of the other metals. Gold will be the strongest, silver will be a little bit weaker, and platinum will be the weakest. Platinum's finding a support here at 929, 930. You can see it going sideways. It broke to the upside, and we're coming back and doing a little bit of a retest, and it's starting to bounce back up. This looks good to me. This doesn't look bad. This looks good. I would be a buyer here, but I like buying stuff that's cheap. When everyone is fearful, when everyone's worried, I sprinkle, guys. I do opposite of everyone else. And platinum looks good here to me. And I think physical metals are the least risk way to play this. So I don't feel bad buying physical metals at a very cheap price. And palladium here looks like it's turning around. We've got a bottom there. It created this bottom. We got a downtrend line. We broke the downtrend line and we're starting to trend higher here. This is a breakout. And I bet you platinum, if you look at how this thing's forming, and I can also draw it from all the way up here if you want me to draw it like that. It broke the downtrend line. It did a back test. What do we do on the back tests? All we're doing is this is just a process. Back test, it comes on up, and you just automatically throw in a buy order. I mean, that's just kind of how I do it. I don't use emotions to guide my thoughts. I just think, and I say, we have a descending wedge. We broke the downtrend line. We came back and did a back test buy. And then I just hold on. And palladium looks really good here too. I mean, could this come and roll over? It very well could. But with the statistical probabilities, all I do is I don't think in terms of the aftermath. I react on what the charts are telling me. And palladium right here, and I'm not buying palladium, I'm buying platinum. Palladium shortages is platinum shortages, so to speak. We've broken that downtrend, and it's trending higher. That's what I do is I buy. I mean, that's what I would do. Now here's ETF GDX. GDX is holding at the 30 level. It's starting to come back up towards the end of the day. I see this as strength, not weakness. Kind of looking at a 1 year, we're putting in this is a daily candlestick, a hammer pattern. Could this be a bottom here? It very well could. And this is where I would sprinkle. I just sprinkle a little bit in. And I'm not telling you guys to do that. That's just what I'm doing. This is a reverse head and shoulders, and I find it highly suspicious that we have a reverse head and shoulders with the neckline. We break the neckline, and then they come out with news and drive it back down here. That's highly suspicious. that they had their timing so great and the timing on oil so great. But here we are down here. It is contracting up a little bit, which is good. That's what we want to see. We've got this kind of downtrend line here, kind of through there. Kind of broke out, came back and did almost a retest, and we're starting to find some support. Doesn't mean that this is just going to turn and move on up, but we're finding support here. It's moving sideways. It's starting to slow its move down. This very well could jet lower on news or anything else in the very short term, because this is all short-term charting. You back out of this thing, you've got a massive 1, 2, 3 pattern, which this is eventually going to break to the upside and move tremendous amounts on the big long-term picture. So I know that everyone is feeling this short-term move. I'm getting a lot of comments, and I can feel it myself, because I was pretty excited about this reverse head and shoulders breaking and moving to the upside. But this is another buying opportunity. That's what it is, in my opinion. MMNGF, yeah, we broke the downtrend, came up, broke this guy, came on back. It's selling off a little bit. But again, if you keep an eye on the big picture, this is going to go massively higher. This chart pattern is fantastic on a long-term perspective. Discovery Silver, yeah, it looks kind of bearish on the near term. We could head lower here based on the monthly candlestick chart. If you zoom in a little bit, we've got a bullish engulfing on the daily candlestick, bullish piercing, bullish engulfing, where this could go higher. To me, it looks like we're actually putting in a bottom here where we bottomed and we're starting to come back up. The pattern that I'm seeing here, if I were to draw it in, looks something like this. We broke on up, it kind of failed back down, and then we came up here. So it doesn't look bad to me. AG was down 1.81. Yeah, we've been moving all over the place in the short term. Descending wedge broke up, and then we kind of failed back down. We're still in this downtrend, and hopefully we can find some support where it's at here shortly. We are still in a downtrend, though. Newmont came back up. We're hitting our head on some resistance. But on a big picture view, guys, I mean, this is a massive pattern. And if we break this to the upside, my Lord, is it going to run? Now, it may take another year or two for this to break, or 3. It may take some time, but this is coming up into and strangling up into a pattern, and we very well could pull all the way back to 3650 down here and be completely within the pattern. So that's Newmont. Yamana Gold. Let me back out a little bit. We are still inside this pattern, and everything's okay so far. Impact Silver getting sold off a little bit. Still has a lot of momentum there, guys. But we're hopefully we can find support right where it's at, right here. Find support, and let's see what happens. AAGFF. 1 year, we got a bearish kind of engulfing pattern. Man, we're just grinding this line right here. That's where we're at. We're at that support line, grinding sideways. So that's what I've got there. I'll have to see where this thing does next week. Sandstorm Gold looks like it's wanting to play with its trend line here and seeing if we're going to get a breakout. I'm looking at the volume. The volume's kicking up a little bit. Is it a legit breakdown? We'll find out next week. And here we are. We're breaking down. Now we got to see if we can pop back higher. Here's the 1 month. We came back down yesterday and today. We're starting to fight our way back up. We'll see if we can get the momentum to come back up here. Franco-Nevada looks like it's getting a little bit of juice injected to it to move back up. On a big long-term picture view, this thing looks pretty good. If we hold this trend line and we can come back up and we break the top of this pattern here, you guys will forget that you even had this little sell-off here. So big picture view looks great. We're still holding on. EMX, it looks like we're starting to sell off a little bit. I'd get a little bit, we might get a little bit of a pullback here, guys. If it doesn't find support, we very well could pull back very easily down to 211. very quickly. And if that doesn't hold, we could come all the way back, maybe even to $1.45 if this kind of peters out here. Tutin Resources has been struggling. We could be breaking out here to the downside. There isn't much support down here. So when this thing goes, it could drop out on us. And it's starting to sell off a little bit down here. If you want to lighten the load, that's up to you, but it could head lower. Wheaton Precious Metals, it's still in the big old pattern here. This is a big pattern, guys. And remember, the bigger the pattern, the bigger the move. Projected move $70 at least from this pattern here. And we're coming and we're grinding sideways in this other pattern here. Sometimes they like to come all the way back. Sometimes they break up on number 3. Zooming in on it. And we're coming down for number 3. It looks like we're trying to find a bottom here. I would have said the same thing here, though. Trying to find a bottom, and it didn't find a bottom. It's trying to. Gold Royalty, it popped up to the downside. Looks like it's trying to fight its way back up, back into the pattern. Good volume at the end of the day and good move. Here's the pattern that I'm looking at. That's the pattern. Kind of zip down. And sometimes what this does is it flushes out a bunch of stop orders in here. Limit stop orders. Sells you out, and then boom, it reverses and slingshots higher. Here's Metalla Royalty. Looks like we're finding some support. Yes, it sold off today a little bit. Has a hammer pattern right here on the daily, so that doesn't look bad. And looking at it, it looks like we could potentially. It's coming, trying to square this up to try to do a break to the upside. We'll see if it does it next trading day. Mavericks Metals getting a little bit sell-off-y here. This is a trend line coming through. Broke out, back testing. We could see this. I mean, it could sell off, but we got good support through here, all through here, right underneath it. I wouldn't be doing anything if it were me there. Royal Gold, 1 year. Could be a little reversal pattern. Today had a little down day for Royal Gold. Moving on sideways here. Not really much to say. We're not breaking any downtrend lines or anything. Cisco Gold Royalty. Down 0.09%. I know it started the day off pretty ugly. Boom. And we fought our way back up. Looking at the 5-year, we could be, if we break out to the downside, we might see this thing kind of release some pressure to the downside. Could have some downside here with Cisco, depending on how it plays out. But that's what it looks like right now. So that's what I have for today. I know you guys are probably searching for answers and searching how that you should feel. And I'll just say this. Usually you got to be more patient than what you think. And usually you should do opposite of what your emotions tell you, for the most part. I'm not saying to go against your gut instinct feeling, but most of the time when I felt like it was the end of the world and I should sell, I should have been buying, at least when I was a new investor. Now I'm kind of indifferent to it. I just look at the patterns. Overall, though, on a big picture view, we could have short-term pain. We very well could. There's a lot of fear out there. And that drives a lot of people. It drives their emotions to sell and to buy and to do things with their accounts. So what I do is I just hands off, ride through it. And if anything, I would be more inclined to buy like physical platinum here, or some of these physical metals. Physical silver looks good too, than I would be to sell, because the charts are telling me that the physical metals, the pricing looks pretty good. Broken downtrends. But I would employ the sprinkle fest. A little bit of money, a little bit of money, a little bit of money. Don't put it all in one shot, because we could still see more downside here, and some of them, maybe they'll head on higher. The short term is the most difficult thing to trade and invest and handle your emotions. The big long-term picture is what I invest for, and if the market conditions are still intact, I don't do anything, and I sprinkle when I start seeing patterns start trying to bottom and come back up. So that's what I do. You guys can obviously follow that if you want to, or do your own thing. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.